Welcome into the Late Night Gamecock Show. It is August 27th, 2025. Alex, how many days away until September?
I guess technically 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens in September, Alex?
A lot of football.
A lot of football. I just had the conversation with my wife over dinner that, look, I hope you enjoyed the last couple months because Saturdays, Sundays, Tuesdays sometimes, Wednesdays sometimes, Thursdays all the time.
Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had to let her know. And we'll see how that works. I mean, at least we can say it's our job, right, Alex?
Yeah. Can't get much better than that, to be honest.
Yep. So, and when I'm watching NFL on Sunday, I got to prep for Rooster Rant. What do you want me to do?
I know,
babe. But well, I know that Alex, you and I are pretty sick of talking about spring ball, summer, preseason camp, all of that. We've heard it. We've told you everything that we've heard. We haven't held back anything. So now it's time to see what these guys look like on the field. Give us some game tape to review. Give us some statistics to look at. Let's see who makes the big wow plays. But Alex, we're here. It's been a long, winding road.
I know. I feel like these past few weeks I've been saying it's right around the corner, but talking season, it starts to wear on you. Like it feels like that preseason, those 3 weeks of camp take forever, but it's hard to believe. I mean, they're fully in game week prep now, and before you know it, I mean, it's with the games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be here before we know it.
I mean, I was telling some friends the other day that they were so excited when football came back for week 0. Mm-hmm. And I was like, y'all, I get it. I'm excited too, but it's like Advent. It's not Christmas Eve, it's Advent. And we definitely are in Christmas Eve.
It's
right
enough
now.
to be excited.
Yeah. And tonight on this show, we're going to talk all about South Carolina versus Virginia Tech. It is the Beamer Bowl, some people are calling it. Shane Beamer is obviously an alumni of Virginia Tech. His dad coached there a number of years. He coached there as an assistant. It's a place that's near and dear to that Beamer family. But this weekend, Virginia Tech is public enemy number 1, at least from 3 o'clock until, say, 7:38 on Sunday evening.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before with the whole Frank Beamer, Shane Beamer thing. Like, how many times is Frank Beamer going to be shown on TV this weekend on Sunday? Because I think you have to imagine that every score he's going to be shown, before the game is going to be shown. Like, that'd be a pretty fun bet to make to see what he can do. But yeah, it's a lot of storylines in this game to go along with that, and both teams have their own storylines as well. Yeah,
and just don't play the game or drink every time you see Frank Beamer. Don't play that one on Sunday. But just looking ahead, Alex and I are going to talk a little bit about the matchups we're curious about. We're just going to kind of pinball off each other, and then in the second half of the show, around 8:30ish, we're going to have Kolby Crawford from VT Scoop, 24/7 sports media company, who's going to come on board with us and tell us everything he knows about the Hokies. I know I have some questions for him. Alex has some questions for him. And look, we're going to see if we can get some kind of prediction out of him by the time we get him out of here tonight. But it's going to be a really fun show. It's finally things to talk about with opponents. And, you see real numbers and real names across the field from you on the other team's chest. So, Alex, let's hit that introduction and we'll get right to it.
This is the Late Night Gamecock Show with the pride of Hampton County, Alex Jones. And with the king of late night, Matt Anderson. Go Gamecocks!
Well, gosh, that band gets you excited, Alex, especially for college football. I feel like for the last month I've been playing college football 26 on my PlayStation 5 or whatever it is, PlayStation 3, 4, 6, I don't know. But you hear the bands, but now it's real. So, Alex, when we talk about this Virginia Tech and South Carolina game, I guess like I said earlier, we're going to pinball off each other. Maybe we can talk start out. What are some things that you want to see out of the Gamecocks? What are the things that if this happens, the Gamecocks have a good opportunity to win? What are the things that you're worried about? So I guess let's just start there, Alex. Let's start with, if South Carolina does X, Y, Z, I feel good about them winning.
So this is kind of like your every game plan thing, but run the ball, stop the run. I think that's something that they preach, and I think it's going to be important in this game. And I think a few other keys that you can tie in specifically with this game is, I think we'll get into a lot of this with Kolby too, but both of these quarterbacks are dynamic with their feet, can do what they can do with their arm as well. I think open field tackling is going to be key in this one, because both of these guys, if they get in space, they can be hard to bring down. And then limit explosive plays. I think the team that can win the explosive play battle, that's going to be something that's really key in this game, especially when Sellers and Drones getting those off schedule, kind of out of the pocket plays, who can stick with their guy, but also limit what the quarterback's able to do with their legs. So I think the explosive play battle is going to be huge. And being that it's the first game, you're probably going to have those kind of mental mistakes, things that you don't see as much in the middle or the late part of the season. Who can limit those? And I think that's going to be if whoever can do that, that's going to be the big thing for the winning team.
Yeah, we'll have some questions a little bit later for Kolby, but one of the things that I think about when I look at this Virginia Tech team, people have talked about the offensive line, and I looked on their depth chart. Their two centers are sub 300 pounds. Then I looked, and Brownlow Dindy is 314 pounds, and there's going to be an opportunity for South Carolina to get after them. And the offensive line is something that we have to talk to Kolby about, because I really don't know where it is right now. And that's a scary thing for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think one thing that would help, that's probably going to help Virginia Tech, is Matt Moore coming over as the offensive line coach, brought some guys from West Virginia with him. But I think, having that voice and guys that are used to his voice, used to maybe, some of his terms and things like that, that's going to help. But I think that, the line of scrimmage is always key. But I think on both sides of this thing for South Carolina, offensively and defensively, it's going to be huge in this matchup, because that goes along with the whole stopping the ball and running the ball motto they have.
Yeah, go further. I would think that if Lenore Sellers plays like he did the last 6 games of the regular season, I don't see the Gamecocks losing. That's one thing, because they didn't lose in that 6-game stretch, and it took Illinois and Lenore Sellers having probably his worst day of the season outside of maybe Old Dominion to start the year. But I wonder how they're going to be able to dial up pressure on Lenore's, because to make him have a bad day, I think the only thing can be a bad day is bad decisions. I think that if he turns the ball over, that could be an issue for South Carolina. They want to avoid that. But outside of turnovers, what is your trust level in Lenore Sellers leading this Gamecock football team Sunday in Atlanta?
Yeah, from a turnover perspective, I think that's something that you want to see. That's probably, the biggest thing from an improvement standpoint for Lenore. It's just because of some of the in-pocket stuff, guys swatting at the ball. That was something that kind of costed him a lot last season. I think that's something that Mike Shula's kind of helped him help continue to develop that part of it. And, I think with him, it's just, and it kind of goes with Virginia Tech Stevens as well, and what I was talking about earlier, but those explosive play battles. And I think that one of the biggest things people are going to be watching for, who on the outside on the perimeter steps up for South Carolina. All the talk, you got all the talk about Nick Carver and the improvement he's making and the progress. Luke Doty kind of, compared his mindset and work ethic today to Xavier Legette from what he saw from him. And I think that's really high praise from what we saw from Xavier. But what did Mazio Bennett and Jared Brown able to do, Dre Jacobs, and then those freshmen, I think it sounds like you're going to see a few of those guys, Murph or Brian Rowe, who steps up on the perimeter to go along with Faison and those running backs. It's really a lot of things that you're going to be watching. But I think what those guys are able to give, along with what the line can do in Laura Sides, is going to be really key to watch.
Yeah, and I guess I'm also thinking about with Lenore's in this scenario. He's been an unquestioned starter for 1 year already. He's played on a neutral field in the bowl game last year. It might be a situation where the moment, although they haven't played in Atlanta in a long time, I don't think the moment will be too big for him. So I don't really have much of a worry of Lenore's messing up. But to your point, a tip ball off a wide receiver's hands or a block, and there's nothing that Sellers can do. That is the scary stuff. But that's where I was kind of going with that. If I'm not worried about quarterback, where am I worried about for South Carolina? And
one would be, just from a special team standpoint, I think that's something that you want to see. I know it's more of a broader thing for the whole team than just the offense, but, they're having to replace so many of those key spots. And, I think, Shane Beamer's talked about, wanting to continue to see more consistency from those guys. And, who knows, maybe on that for South Carolina's first drive, you may need a 40-yard field goal or something like that. It's, one thing to do it for Max Kelly or Mason Love to be able to do it in these kind of simulated, intense moments that they create in practice. But now these guys are going to have to go do it, under the lights and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and really the whole nation's watching. And not to say these guys can't do it, but, we just haven't seen them have to go out there and do it because of Alex Herrera being there and Kyle Kroger and those guys. So I think it's just one of those from a special team standpoint. That's one of the key things to watch early on. And it kind of feels like, if they can, from whoever the place kicking is going to be, if they can see the ball go through the uprights one time, it's kind of like maybe in a basketball player, when they see the ball go through the hoop the first time, that confidence just soars, and you really don't even know that it's anything different than last year. So special teams is something to keep an eye on, especially in the return game as well, because they've kind of really emphasized wanting to be better there as well.
Well, you talk about special teams. I do think this is an important note here. If you're South Carolina, you obviously want to win. But, and I promise what I'm about to say is going to make sense. You obviously want to win, but you don't really want to put your kicker in a situation to have to win the game. Now, on the flip side, Virginia Tech being anything from a 7.5 to 10-point underdog, depending on what time of day, where you look, that type of game not only favors Virginia Tech as an underdog, but it also favors their kicking game, because their kicker is really good. Virginia Tech's not going to have a problem trotting out their field goal kicker with 33 seconds left in the game, trailing by 2. They're not going to worry about that. But South Carolina has to make sure they don't let themselves get in that situation. And I don't think they will unless catastrophe happens. I think that, honestly, South Carolina, if they have 0 turnovers, I would guarantee they'll win the game, in my mind. But there are things I worry about, with South Carolina, it's the linebackers. It's who's going to be watching drones. Is he going to break off a big play? I mean, confidence. It's their first time in the lights. They got to build that quickly. They can't let a couple plays snowball on them. I will say that one matchup I am pretty intrigued by is, we all know that Torian Gray likes to have big corners and big safeties. He's going to need them, because outside of one player on the 2 deep at wide receiver and tight end for the Hokies, one guy's 5'10". Everybody else is at least 6'2", 6'3", 6'5". So do you think this is going to be a game where they try and just methodically go down the field? I mean, because air raid's going to spread it out and just try and get chunk yards. So, playing press is probably going to be advantageous to South Carolina.
Yeah, I kind of that's one of the things that we're going to talk about here with this matchup, is just kind of not knowing what you're going to get from both coordinators for Virginia Tech, just because of all the newness. And from that perspective, like I wouldn't be surprised to see Virginia Tech try to, and we can talk about this with Kolby as well, but see Virginia Tech try to establish the run early on to kind of open up things for drones in the passing game, because I am intrigued by a few of the receivers, especially Donovan Green, a guy that was pretty good at Wake Forest, and now I think that he's healthy. He could be a guy to watch, and Cam Selden as well. Is what I'm just really I could maybe see them trying to establish the run early on to get things going for drones and those guys. And but the secondary of South Carolina, I think that's where you do feel a little bit good there, just because it is an experienced group coming back with Judge Collier, Brandon Cisse obviously being the first year in the system, but a guy that had experience in NC State, and then DQ Smith back there at safety as well. So that's definitely one of the more intriguing matchups in this game, and I think it can come down to, DB versus wide receiver, but it could also come down to the pass rush as well, where if they're trying to pass the ball, or Dylan Stewart and those guys on the inside, Brian Thomas Jr., are they able to get after drones in the pocket?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, when you look at drones, I mean, how injured was he in the offseason? Is that going to limit him going forward? I mean, you haven't seen him play post in a boot, leg in an ice bucket on the field during practice. So I wonder what's going to happen with drones, and I wish him nothing but success in every game against every other opponent. But yeah, I'm just kind of sitting there thinking about it. What's on your mind, Alex?
I think you kind of sticking with the line of scrimmage, just that interior or the defensive line for South Carolina. That's one that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on, just see how they're going to replace T.J. Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, and Boogie Huntley and those guys. And again, I keep saying it, but that goes back to the whole stop and the run part. And that makes me wonder, just with some of the new faces that South Carolina does have, and there, does Virginia Tech try to attack the middle with the run? Is that where they try to get things going from a passing game perspective as well? So, and then what you talked about with Virginia Tech's offensive line and their size, like that's the inside of that the line of scrimmage. It's a line of scrimmage game pretty much in every game, and I think it's going to be that in this game as well. And that's interior guys, because I think a lot of talk is going to be about Dylan Stewart and what he can do off the edge, but what those guys can do from a productivity standpoint inside is going to be intriguing as well.
I'll tell you an interesting stat that I ran across, and it's with Drones. Drones has not thrown an interception in a game that he has won. He's only thrown interceptions in games that he's lost as a starting quarterback. So, you're going to want to get kind of testy down there in the secondary and try and force an interception. That was so interesting. It's like 19. Yeah. I can't remember how many games. It's over 19 games or something like that.
It kind of feels like there's one of your big keys right there. If you're able to kind of get a turnover on Drones, like obviously history with the stats and all that kind of speaks for itself, but if you're able to get after Drones and force some turnovers. And, I think this kind of goes to another key I have for the game is for South Carolina is to get off to a fast start, whether that be, creating a turnover early, just because you look back through these past two openers for South Carolina and Old Dominion last year, got off to a slow start and really let Old Dominion hang around in that game and almost win it, to be honest, in that fourth quarter without Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart making big plays there down the goal line. But getting off to a fast start and kind of keep it, because there's going to be a lot of, obviously you can imagine there's probably going to be a lot of South Carolina fans in that, but the whole stadium's going to be pretty hyped for that game. Kind of building off that momentum and then getting off to a fast start. Then if you do get off to a fast start, kind of holding on to it and not letting things get away, kind of like you saw with that LSU game last year. But I think if you get off to a fast start, that's key, in every game, but especially in this one as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What's your take on Rasul Faison? We know that he is now eligible. Do you think that changes the game plan for what the Gamecocks wanted to do at all coming into this week?
I don't think so. I think you have to imagine they had a plan for if he was going to be able to play. They've been building this game plan for a few weeks now, and really kind of since the summer when they started scouting Virginia Tech. But I don't think it changes too much just because, I think they had a plan ready for him, and he's been able to practice with the practice waiver. So he kind of was just waiting for that news, to be honest. But, the running back room, guys, overall, the big thing I'm watching with that is just how the rotations work out. And I think you have to imagine Faison's probably going to be the first running back out there with the first team or the first series. But, what do the rotations look like? Is it Oscar Attaway being that number 2 back? I don't think it matters too much from who's a number 2, who's a number 3 perspective at that point. But you hear a lot about Isaiah Augustov in the preseason camp that he had. Just kind of overall, what do those rotations look like? How often do they rotate? Is it going to be one where I think you kind of have to imagine you see kind of like what it was last year, where if one guy's really getting going like a Rocket Sanders last year, they just keep him in and let him roll.
Yeah, and I see Michael here and on the chat box. What's up, Michael? Happy to see you. Says Drones is a passing quarterback that is mobile. He's not a running quarterback. People get that confused. Michael, I 100% agree with you. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to rack my brain on who Drones reminds me of, or, player comparison. And I mean this in the best possible way, but DJ Oglawalilu from Clemson, I think that's what they hoped Clemson was getting when they got him. When they got DJ, I really, DJU, whatever. I think that Drones is just what he was supposed to be. Not really a guy that's going to burn you. He's not Mike Vick. Don't think he's a Marcel Reed. He's a big, strong quarterback that can move. So that's where I wonder, how much of this is going to be Drones moving the chains? Is it, if it's let's say if it's fourth and 1, is he going to do a quarterback keeper? Are they going to run a naked bootleg? That's where South Carolina capitalized so much last year, was in big moment defensive possessions, defensive plays. Outside of the LSU game and maybe a couple others, I can't remember when it didn't really go the Gamecocks' way to at least hold to a field goal, if not stop a touchdown or force a turnover. So that's my question mark for this defense this year. That was the defining thing about the Gamecocks. It wasn't all the sacks. It wasn't the points per game for the opponent. It was the reason teams didn't score is because you dropped your whats and
when they needed to make a play, they made a play.
Yes.
I think about that Texas A&M game, those 2 4th downs where one of them where Debo Williams just basically goes under the offensive line and gets to Marcel Reed or the running back, whichever one it was at that point. But, I think that's something that is going to come with experience. And, when you think about this defense, just what they lost, just from an experience factor, that is something that from a factual standpoint they lost. Can they, set or get back to that standard from making a play when they need to? And I think you feel decent about their chances to do that because, you think about, especially in that safety defensive back room, you got Jalen Kilgore, experienced guy, DQ Smith, experienced guy, Brandon Cisse, experienced. And then that linebacker room, I think you're intrigued by what Sean Murphy brings. And then Fred Johnson, you saw the flashes of it last year. Now it's just, again, going out there and doing it on Sunday when the lights are bright.
Yeah, and I don't think that you necessarily have to spy drones every single play. You need to be aware of him, and you need to know, if this guy misses, where are you in position? How are you containing it, if nothing else?
I think the biggest thing with that will be, if you're pressuring him, if you're bringing more than 4, if you're going to blitz a linebacker. So, staying in your rushing lanes is going to be key, because if you run past him and he sneaks by, he can turn a third and 8 into a first down or more very quickly, just because he is very good. Has a little bit of Norris Stellars in that just so he can make those types of plays. So I think that's one of the huge keys, is to kind of just, always be keeping an eye on him. But if you're going to be rushing, you're going to have to get to him and not let an open lane get open, because he's going to make you pay for it.
Yeah, well, we're about to have Kolby on here in just a minute, but Alex, before we get Kolby here, we're going to ask him questions. But what's your prediction as of right now for the final score of the South Carolina Virginia Tech game?
Right now, I got South Carolina 28, Virginia Tech 14.
Okay, I got South Carolina 31, Virginia Tech 17. So we're in the same ballpark there. Yeah, just curious. We'd love to hear y'all's predictions in the chat box too. Go ahead and fill it up. Let us know what you think. I think, what's the over-under on the game, Alex? Because we're not going to pick it later.
Oh, I don't.
Wasn't it like 52.5 or something?
That sounds right. Yeah, 52.5.
So both of us be taking the Gamecocks to cover the spread there, and we'd both be taking the under as well. I do think it's going to be an under game if I was betting it.
Yeah, I do think so too. I think that kind of goes to what we were talking about. Well, how does Virginia Tech kind of play from a schematic standpoint? Now, if they're up tempo, I think you can see that, going a different way. But, I right now, as we say today, I lean kind of the under happening in this game.
Yeah, that's what we got to ask Kolby about, because they do have a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and it is a big year for the head coach and Blacksburg. So, Alex, let's go ahead and run our sponsor and commercial break. And we get back, we'll have Kolby in here.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cards while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, Freddie.
You bet.
JC Sherbert here. Had a brilliant idea that some good friends of mine in Florence have told me about. Next time you're having a wedding or an event, or anytime you got to feed a bunch of people, talk to my friends over at Flavortown Eats and Events. That's right. It's a food truck / trailer. Prepares the food fresh on site right there for you. No hassle. It's absolutely delicious. They'll come out, turnkey solution to feed the masses at your event. Go to their website right now. flavortownflow.com. That's flavortownflow.com. They have all the contact information you need, and they are a proud sponsor of the Late Night Gamecock Show and the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville, Mount Pleasant, Myrtle Beach, and Bluffton, and online at palmcasual.com for our products and out-of-state locations. Go Gamecocks!
This is the Late Night Gamecock Show with the pride of Hampton County, Alex Jones. And with the king of late night, Matt Anderson. Go Gamecocks!
Well, welcome back to the Late Night Gamecocks show. As always, I'm your host, Matt Anderson. Here's Alex Jones of thebigspur.com. We have Kolby Crawford here from VT Scoop, 24/7 site. Kolby, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. Absolutely hectic getting back here. Virginia Tech just had its media availability, so caught up with Coach Pry, offensive line coach Matt Moore. Made it back in time to chop it up with y'all, so appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, anytime we can return the favor, let us know.
Right on.
So I think I sent over some questions earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe Alex sent them over. So let's get into some of that. We want to make the absolute most of your time.
Mm-hmm.
First things first, before we get right into it, how long have you been covering Virginia Tech? What are some things that you're seeing right now in the program? Just all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I've been covering the program since spring of 23. So that was I guess the spring cycle when Kyron Drones first came in, and now it's his sort of last rodeo. So it's kind of crazy. I guess his third year in the program, second offensive coordinator, which I'm sure we'll jump into here. But yeah, I've been with them since spring 23. Obviously around the program right now, obviously circulating across South Carolina boards with the relevance of the game, the DWI arrest of linebacker Caleb Woodson, and things stemming from that. Like I said, Pry sort of doubled down today in his stance of saying he's still no decision made yet on his availability for the game. However, we are hearing that he is most likely going to play on Sunday, and that is the overall feeling. Now, Pry still obviously coming out and saying not a decision has been made, but I think there's still confidence that Caleb Woodson is going to play Sunday. And that's pretty much the biggest news right now. I mean, another thing, we'll jump into all this, but the overall vibe is sort of that hopium kicking in, you know, talking about all the ways that, man, Virginia Tech can win this game if this, and this all go right. And a little bit of, it's been a long offseason. People are just really excited to see a game and pads go against each other. So that's sort of some of the, I guess, feelings right now around Blacksburg.
Well, Alex is doing his fair share of running around right now in Columbia.
Oh, I see it.
It's that crazy time. I know you are feeling it as well. I mean, it's, we were talking about this earlier. Like, it's, talking season's one thing, but, it kind of feels like it's time to get into this week by week basis. It's time to get these games in.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. and like, I think the guys are definitely feeling that too.
Yeah.
I've made the joke. I guess it's like, you always hear the coaches say, man, we just want to go up against a team in different colors. And I guess it will be different colors, the orange on black, but it's kind of funny. Everyone's saying Frank Beamer is going to wear the shade of maroon or garnet because it's kind of right down the middle. So it's almost going to look like a scrimmage.
Well, we were talking about earlier, like, Matt and I were talking, like, how many times is Frank Beamer going to be shown on TV in this game?
Oh, my gosh.
The over-under, there needs to be some bet on that because I'm sure a lot of people throw some money in on that.
Yeah, it's going to be like the Taylor Swift. It's going to be after every play, just cutting back to Frank to see his reaction for both sides. Because, I mean, obviously, when this game was scheduled, it was before Shane. It was before. I mean, like, college football is crazy. Like, these games scheduled years in advance. Yeah. You couldn't even write this storyline, and now it's sort of fallen this way. So I think that adds an extra element. Obviously, it was already going to be a big-time matchup, Aflac kickoff game, and then you throw in the familial connection, and it just adds a whole nother element to it.
Yeah, it's something crazy because for Frank, it's either damn if you do, damned if you don't. If you pull for your son, well, you turned heel on us. If you don't pull for your son, you're a bad dad. So
yeah,
it's
crazy. Like, I'm just walking down the street named after him. They see a statue, and I'm like, it's pretty crazy that realistically, like, he's obviously doesn't want his son to not succeed, but this is a program he's coached at 30 whatever years, and it really is just such. I think it's gonna be a big spectacle.
Yeah, and with Virginia Tech, I'll be honest. Even folks in the media, we don't really know what to make of Virginia Tech right now. And we all believe that Drones is a fantastic quarterback. There's no denying that. We think the defensive line's pretty good. Good defenders, good players at Virginia Tech. But what's the scheme going to be? Like, is it going to be an Art Briles, wide open system? Is it what are you hearing about offense and defense? Because it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, offensively, I think compared to last year, I think they're definitely going to try and spread it out, go a little bit more over the top. I don't know if it's going to go full Art Briles in that regard. Like, they're definitely going to. I mean, you're going to hear the same thing. If they're going to be vanilla and a little sneaky with what they want to do, they're going to say we want to be balanced. It's the same things you're going to hear. And on defense, it's like we're going to be multiple. Well, every defense is multiple. It's just to what effect. So offense, I think it's definitely going to be a lot more spread than they have been in past years under Tyler Bowen. But they also like the backs. They like the Marcellus Hawkins. They want to get him involved. They want to get Drones involved in the running game. Obviously, like you said, he's a good quarterback when healthy. And that's the big thing. He's had a camp now where he's been healthy, and he's operating like it's his third year playing like legitimate college football at Virginia Tech. Obviously, like seeing a lot of reps, brand new offensive coordinator, but it's his third offense he's learned. So there's just a lot that I think he's developed. And last year, I don't know. Obviously, people are making the comparisons. I think it's a little different with the Sellers and Drones coming into last year, where they sort of popped onto the scene there. I think Sellers is probably obviously a step ahead of where Drones was. It's a different level, but it was sort of to that effect. I think Tyler Bowen last year was not really a quarterback's guy. He was an offensive lineman calling plays, and maybe tried to make Drones someone he wasn't. A straight up drop back guy, 3 reads, and maybe just took him a little bit out of his comfortability in a couple of reads and then tuck it and go make a play. And I think he's gotten back to that. I think this is a really comfortable system. I think he's got a great rapport with Monty, knowing if he takes a sack, the quarterback gets up and he gets a little heady. He gets that clock in his head, calling in a play that Drones likes to sort of get him back in rhythm. I think that's the biggest thing, is just being in sync and on time with the offensive coordinator, where you're not getting called in a play that's just completely off base and you get completely out of rhythm.
We were talking earlier. Sorry, Alex, I just want to talk about this with Drones while we're on it. When we think athletic quarterbacks, Virginia Tech, we think about the Vic brothers. Long time ago, but still.
Tyrod Taylor, Logan Thomas, like these guys.
So with Drones, we actually had a comment in here that I agree with from our chat box. Drones is a passing quarterback that is mobile. He's not a running quarterback. People get that confused. Where do you see Drones most accurate around the field? A short, intermediate, long? What's his arm like for those of you that haven't seen it?
I mean, he's got a massive arm. He can throw it. He has a cannon, but it's just honing that in. You saw last year, he definitely was not in sync a couple times on some really big plays that could have changed some games. I mean, obviously, it's been made known for Virginia Tech's record in 1-score games. And it's like, you get a couple of those big chunk plays. If you connect on those, it can really swing the tide, just being off by half a yard, a foot. Now, some of that was relationships. Some of that was things going on with receivers. But if you can connect on those plays and just – because it has the ability, some guys just can't really open it up. But if he can connect in time on those, and then, I mean, obviously, and also just taking the check down when you need it and not taking that bad sack, you being able to throw the ball away, those check downs. But specifically, I think short, intermediate, crossing routes with guys like Aiden Green, I think he's extremely accurate. And you saw that. I mean, now his completion percentage went up, but obviously some other stats went down. And that's sort of what I think it went to, just maybe trying to go too much to that pro style and leaning into those aspects, maybe taking sacks that like a year ago, he's rolling out, getting the ball away, or putting his head down, getting a couple yards, as opposed to taking that sack and maybe saving that completion percentage a little bit. But I mean, his accuracy, this camp has by far been his best camp, but that's what you would expect. He's the most mature. I think he's come in the healthiest of this camp, and he's been in sync with a guy like Aiden Green now. He's been throwing to him for 3 years, and pretty much when he was throwing to Aiden was on the second team, and now they've had a bunch of reps together. Now they bring in a lot of new guys, but I think rapport with him and a tight end like Benji Gosnell goes a long way.
Do you kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of tempo in this offense? They're going to try to run with it?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to do tempo. I think they want to go quick. I think they want to get those plays in. And obviously they want to keep South Carolina guessing. That's their biggest thing going into this week. And it's no surprise. There's absolutely no surprise to that. That's why it's so locked down. That's why we didn't watch practice today. That's why, the defense, the scheme is so under wraps. The offense, you bring in 2 new offensive coordinators. You're coming in against a top 15 opponent. You had no real film out there. I mean, obviously they can backtrack through certain things and watch old Wofford games for Sam Cephas and take pieces from that. But that is their truest advantage. So if you can speed them up, get on their heels. Now, that's not to say that Dylan Stewart won't get them off tempo or Jalen Kilgore. They've got really good players on the other side of the ball. You can only try and dictate so much. The other side's going to push back too, but I think they are definitely going to go tempo. I think that's something they're comfortable to do. And that's why but outside of that offensive line, we just talked to Coach Moore, the offensive line coach, and I think that is the biggest circle. If there are any complications in this game, obviously it's most prevalent for y'all in this game, but that offensive line is truly paper thin before you get to guys who have not seen any live bullets at all. So that is going to be something, and obviously a very, very dynamic front. You got Thomas and Stewart and all those guys, and that's against the starting guys like Johnny Garrett. I think we'll get into it more even a little bit, but they sort of had a set rotation. They're still that top 5 is going to be that starting 5, but they've had to mix and match pieces. And then you look at a guy like Dylan Stewart, such a matchup problem. bringing Tomas Remak over back to left guard. Is that in accordance with him being off that left side? Obviously, they're going to chip him, probably bring a tight end over there. So it's still to be seen how they roll out that 5. But on the depth chart, you had Tomas Remak pretty much repping at tackle and all the availabilities that we were able to see. And then it's dropped that he's back at left guard where he played at West Virginia a lot. So is that matchup based? Are they still just trying to figure out where all those 5 guys best play together? But yeah, outside of those 5 guys, you're pretty much looking at redshirt freshmen and true freshmen behind them on that offensive line.
Well, that was one of the position groups I wanted to ask you about, and you covered it really well there. But another one that I'm really intrigued about is that running back room. I think you got Terrion Stewart's a guy that, tackle breaking machine last year at Bowling Green. But, kind of reading y'all's reporting on VT Scoop, it kind of seems like Marcellus Hawkins is the guy that really, caught the coaching staff's attention in the preseason. What can you kind of tell us about him and the rest of that running back room?
For sure. And I think the biggest thing with Terrion right now is he's might be a game time decision. Like he's still like not all the way back. And that's a guy you go out in the transfer portal and you bring him in and you expect him to sort of be that bell cow. Like that he was recruited to sort of be that guy. And then here comes Marcellus Hawkins, transferred in from Central Missouri, Division II school, was a little banged up in the spring, but he definitely had some flashes and then had a great summer, a great fall. And I think he's pretty much outright won that starting running back job. And obviously it didn't pair well. That obviously Terrion got a little dinged up. So it sort of gave Hawkins the runway, but I think he's taking that job and run with it. And someone who is really just an all-around back, can block out of the backfield, catch passes out of the backfield, run between the tackles, off tackle, really does it all. Just a great build for a running back, good burst. And I think someone that Virginia Tech's going to be really excited about, but it's going to start with that push. Like, just even in the scouting, like obviously this is a really, really stout front. So like to get push, and this is his first time seeing live bullets against an FBS program, let alone a top 15 team in an NFL stadium. Like, it's just like, I was talking to them. It's like, it looks really good right now on the practice field. Will that translate to Mercedes-Benz on Sunday?
Yeah. Hey, Kolby, you probably lived the same, terrible experience Alex and I do on the message boards. If the offensive line looks great, well, the defensive line must be terrible. If the offensive line stinks, oh no, the defensive line is just awesome. The offensive line is still, so you really don't know. He's sticking with the offense there. I mean, we saw it with Mario Anderson a couple of years ago. Trust us, the Gamecock fans are not saying, "Oh, it's a D2 talent," and taking that for granted. We've seen D2 talents come through here. Heck, Missouri had one a couple of years ago. I don't even know if he was D2 when he came over, and he's Cody Schrader now in the NFL. So when looking at it on offense, the wide receivers did catch my attention. It looks like all 6'2" to 6'5". How much speed is in that wide receiver room? I would imagine the slot guy, the 5'10" kid, 163 pounds, can probably fly. Yeah. But outside of that, where is it going to come from?
So it's funny you bring up Takai Heath in the slot there. Smaller guy, he's maybe got the most rave reviews out of anyone through spring. He won the MVP of spring. And this is a guy who is really documented throughout the program. Probably almost transferred the past 2 cycles. Just really wasn't bought in. And now he's kind of grown up and he is an absolute problem. Now, also a problem for him, his first play ever at the collegiate level, broke his wrist against Rutgers, was out the rest of the year. You mentioned 163 pounds. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. If he's in that slot, I would presume he gets a matchup against Kilgore. Maybe, I don't know. But if you get that matchup, like, that's sort of good on good. Like, we just talked to Pry, another wide receiver, Isaiah Spencer, and he just wowed himself. Was like, wow, that dude is probably the most shifty receiver he's ever seen. Like, a good friend who's close to the program said, you couldn't even touch him in a phone booth type shiftiness, quickness off the line. So
is he a deep threat guy, or is he gonna be the guy the Gamecocks need to worry about, that short intermediate?
That's yes, field? I would say more that, like, he's not going to go bust the top off you on a go ball, but underneath end arounds, getting him involved. And then you talk about a guy like Cam Selden, a former top 90, top 100 recruit coming from Tennessee. He was playing running back at Tennessee, transfers in. Now he's playing wide receiver, but he hit 23 miles an hour on their tracking system. Really, really dynamic player. I think they have him listed. I don't know where they have him listed. He's going to play probably in that slot at wide receiver. Has developed a ton, his route tree, but another gadget guy that they really want to get involved. That's a guy also probably closer around the line of scrimmage, but with game-breaking speed. Now, if you want to talk about taking the top off, Wake Forest transfer Donovan Green, I think it's his 6th or 7th year of college football, has seen a lot of football. He's had a really nice camp. And then also we were talking to him today, Jackson State transfer wide receiver Isaiah Spencer. Coming from the FCS level, there's some things to clean up, but man, he had a really great fall camp. Those practices were big, like just because he came in over the summer. So these practices were pretty much his first time getting up to speed, and you saw the development even just in what we were able to see, and you heard those reviews. So those were probably the deep threats, and then maybe just the overall, all-around best receiver, Aiden Green. He can sort of do it all. He'll probably line up in the slot. He'll line up outside. He's a guy who's homegrown. If you go back and watch the Mayo Bowl, kind of had his breakout game when all those receivers last year, Jalen Lane, Quan Felton, Steven Gosnell, well, I guess some of those guys still up, had over 100 receiving yards, and that's been waiting. He's sort of been waiting in the wings, and he's absolutely taken it and run with it this offseason. So that's kind of what you're looking at, the receivers. They have a couple guys banged up. I know Gamecocks fans will be familiar with, obviously, the recruitment of Keelan Brody-Adams. He's not going to be making the trip down to Atlanta. They had another guy, Chance Wiggins, who was also probably going to factor in on the outside as a deep threat. He's also not going to be making the trip. So a little banged up there. And then maybe another guy who you might see, Tucker Holloway, maybe in that slot outside, really a really quick player. He'll be back there at punt returner, and he's a very, very dynamic punt returner. He missed all last year with a knee injury. He's back, and with some injuries at wide receiver, you'll probably see him line up there as well.
Yeah, and so thank you so much. That was a very thorough offensive report. We appreciate that because we don't get that often. Really quick, just the offensive line. We talked about it briefly. One of the things that stood out to us was the fact that the starting centers weighed less than 300 pounds. Yeah. Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that that's going to impact the offensive line at all? Because we know at South Carolina, the center to quarterback exchange is very, very important.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not too worried about that. Kyle Altuner, you talk about that guy, obviously bringing a new strength coach. I think he arguably maybe won the summer period with the work he was putting in the weight room. You see the redshirt freshman tag next to his name. I guess the youngest guy listed to start there. But that's Matt Moore's guy, bringing him from West Virginia, straight up about his business. Like he handles his business like a redshirt senior. And maybe, like you said, like a 6'1.5", 6'2", maybe not the biggest guy, but that's sort of what you would expect from a center. He plays hard, though. Like, if he gets beat, he gets up and he goes right back at it. If he gets beat off the ball, like, he just gets back over the ball and keeps going. And he's a really good competitor. I think he's going to be a good player here for a while. But like I said, he's green, He hasn't seen a lot of college football. But he's someone on that line that they feel really comfortable about. And, yeah, he's had a nice camp. But I think over the summer, specifically in the weight room, he heard a lot of really, really positive things about him.
Yeah, because I think if there's one matchup that can be pretty favorable with Virginia Tech if everything goes smoothly, right? Because you talked about the offensive line and the depth and everything and just who the starters are. But South Carolina's replacing a lot of talent defensive tackle. A lot of guys that Gamecock fans need to see it from. So that was one of the reasons I was asking about that interior of that offensive line. Would you say that the outside or the inside is the strongest part of your offensive line at Virginia Tech right now?
Sorry, you kind of cut out there for a little bit, but I got the last part saying this inside or the outside strongest part.
Yeah.
Steve, that's interesting because it just changed. My answer would be wherever Tomas Remak's playing. If he's playing at tackle or if he's playing at guard, I think that's the strongest point. Right now, at that guard position, you have Remak and Lath Ganem. I'm taking the inside because you got Altuner, Remak, who's seen it all, was an all-conference honorable mention last year at West Virginia. I would say hands down, far and away, the best offensive lineman wherever he lines up on this group. And then Lath Ganem, that was a guy who won the left guard spot last year, had a health scare, thankfully came back fully healthy and won the job again at right guard. But I think that honestly the biggest thing, that's my answer is wherever Remak is, but something I'm really watching is the left tackle, Johnny Garrett. He's had a nice camp, but man, like that matchup against Stewart is going to be really big if he can do that for 50, 60 snaps, however many in a game, because that I think that's really going to be the one to circle. I mean, anytime Stewart's kind of up against anyone, but Garrett sort of had a little bit of an up and down camp, but he's a competitor too. Like he's not running from any matchup, but definitely something to monitor.
Yeah, and kind of flipping over to the other side of the ball real quick, talking about Sam Cephas. What have you kind of figured out about him so far? I know obviously, when things go, like you're not going to find too much about his scheme and all that, but what have you been able to kind of learn about him and what he can bring or what he's going to bring to that defense this year?
You said Cephas?
Yeah.
They call him the mad scientist. He's got like I said, super multiple. You wouldn't expect it when you hear from him or you hear him talking at a press conference, kind of a smaller, wiry guy. And then what you hear behind closed scenes, like him scheming with Bud Foster, like they get after it. Super, super intense guy. Really big on teaching the scheme. Like, obviously, teaching a brand new scheme to 50 guys at the collegiate level is tough. Getting everyone bought in. So spent a lot of time this summer and spring and fall just getting everyone really up to speed, making sure they understand the playbook. And I think everyone has a really good grasp. Big thing on our board is, are these guys going to be playing? Are they going to be thinking, or are they going to be playing? Are their feet going to be tied up? And it really looks like they might not always be going the right direction, but they're going to be playing fast and hard to the ball. Like, I don't think they're going to miss a play because they're going to be too stagnant. It just might not be on time. But like, he brings, and I think the biggest thing with him is that defensive line and what he can do. Like the defense, like bring the edge in, like 270, dropping him back at that linebacker. Obviously, the 3 high safety look. We haven't seen much of that in practice. Obviously, you don't want to show too much of that, but that's something, obviously, that's a card he has up his sleeve. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, they have a position listed as the Sam linebacker, where it's pretty much they have an edge rusher, more true linebacker type, and then pretty much a safety type. So it's like that kind of shows you, just based on formation and the package, who they're going to have in there. And yeah, I think they're just going to try and confuse sellers. Obviously, they don't want to make it easy on them, and obviously bring pressure and like box him in. I think the playbook to beat him is out there. It's just really, really hard to execute when you have such a dynamic player. Like, you can't, like, if you tackle, yeah, you're going to be successful, but he's really hard to tackle and really hard to get down. And, if you can control the line and if you can set the edge on defense and keep him in that box, okay, good. You get a hand on him. Can you get him down now? And then can the coverage hold up once he escapes the pocket? It's just something like that. So
yeah, with Kolby, with Lenore, just for your folks on your board and Virginia Tech folks you talk to, it's really never a situation where he doesn't play well enough to win. It's making bad decisions at the wrong time that have cost the Gamecocks numerous games. But that was also a first-year starter. He also won 6 games in a row for the Gamecocks. So you take the good, you take the bad. You got the facts of life. Yeah. So really quick, strength and conditioning. How much of an issue was that at Virginia Tech to have a change in strength and conditioning coordinators?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a big issue. Maybe the biggest issue with last year, you see Virginia Tech not being able to close games. Always, you get to that fourth quarter, you want to be just as strong. You want to have guys cycling in and feeling fresh, and Virginia Tech just wasn't able to close down the stretch. And in the first game, it was prevalent. Kyron Drones caught a full body cramp on the last drive, and they put a backup in, and it just sort of derailed some things instantly straight off the jump. You saw just physically, getting off the bus, you saw guys maybe not looking the way they're supposed to for the position at the level they're playing. Just things like that. But I think really mainly just not being able to finish games strong. And they promoted from within Jarrett Ferguson, former letterman with the program. The players were fully on board, ecstatic when they heard the news. And this is a guy who's not going to be their best friend. He's going to go in there. He's going to work the heck out of them. And they did this summer. And I think you saw the reviews, like guys that you've seen in the program for multiple years, and you would expect to see the development. And you did to a degree, but you saw just a leap in development in just even one cycle, as opposed to guys who'd been there for 2 years with Deej. So I think it was a really big positive change. Now, like I said, it sounds really good right now on August 27th, but will that carry out through a 14-week season? I don't know. I think they're come in a little bit healthier and with more just overall resolve. Like, that summer period is so big, especially now with what you can do with the OTAs and just getting on the same page. And like this team, 2 new coordinators, 50 new players between high school and transfer ranks. Like, it's not the college football of old where these guys come up, they grew up in the same dorm room, they eat at the same on-campus dining, and they see each other all the time. Like, these guys, a lot of them just met 8-9 weeks ago. So yeah, it's really a crash course, and I think he did a really good job of driving that and making guys sort of come together in different groups.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I always like to see is when strength and conditioning changes in a program, because South Carolina's had ups and downs with it. But right now, the team looks pretty physically fit, and they did a good job.
I mean, off the bus, it's just like those guys, it's no joke. Like, and that's what it's like when I talked about the hopium. Like, everyone's, Lenore, is he really this great on the board or whatever? I'm like, sometimes you just have to tip the cap and say, like, these are really, really dynamic players on the other side of the ball. And like, there obviously is a path to winning. You've seen crazy things in like week ones before, but Like a lot of this stuff is warranted. You know, these people who are scouting the NFL draft, like you sort of know what you're looking for. And these guys are really, really dynamic ball players. We haven't even talked about Nick Harbor. I know his production hasn't been there, but if you just want to talk about height, weight, speed, up there just in the country, in the world, honestly, just like dynamic freak human beings. So, yeah, really great program. And obviously strength and conditioning is a big part of that.
So, Kolby, last question we have to talk about just in general about the Hokies before we ask you some rapid fire stuff and let you get out of here. The secondary, are there any ball hawks back there? Who are the folks that Gamecock fans should be aware of, or at least Lenore Sellers and offensive coordinator Mike Shula should be aware of?
Yeah, honestly, I think someone that's maybe flown under the radar because he got a little dinged up in spring is a returning, I guess, true sophomore now, Quentin Reddish. Had to play a lot as a true freshman last year. Took a blocked field goal back for a touchdown against Clemson last year. Really, really great player. Had some people sniffing around in the offseason trying to get into the transfer portal, comes back as a true sophomore. And I think that's someone that's going to fly under the radar. Really great ball skills, hitter in open space. And then you talk about also back there at safety, Tyson Flowers. They bring in this Rice transfer, and all you've heard is extremely positive reviews about his football IQ. Just comes in and does his work every day. Now, outside at corner, it's maybe a little bit less settled. This guy, Thomas Williams, he's been with the program now. Homegrown, sort of took his licks, played in the Military Bowl. That was sort of his first real appearance. And you want to talk about someone who had the biggest growth and development from the summer into fall. This guy, I was out there for a camp in June, I guess, and he was out there on the Monarch or the Jugs machine, whatever they call it, getting work in like a polo and jeans, like just putting in work by him, like absolutely just straight up about his business, and straight up has won one of those cornerback spots. And then at the next spot, you look at Dante Lovett, who was probably presumed to be cornerback one, battling out with Hawaii transfer Caleb Brown, and that's probably going to be 50-50. Those guys are probably going to split snaps. But if you want to talk about like a true ball hawk, I would say back there at safety, maybe Quentin Reddish. I think he could surprise some people.
Yeah, that's one of the, and it's happened before where Lenore's just stared right down the middle right at the guy, and you don't know how it happens. But so some rapid fire stuff. I'm sure Alex has some more as well. So Alex, if you got some more, we'll just go back and forth here.
Right.
So Alex, you start with some of the rapid fire stuff. We'll try and get them out here by 9.
Yeah, just your 3 kind of quick keys for the game for Virginia Tech in this one.
Yeah, I think the biggest keys are obviously containing Lenore Sellers, not letting him just control the game, make him probably try and beat you from the pocket, and which he does, I guess, just tip the cap. Like, obviously, he's a very dynamic get but you just don't want him to get outside, contain, and then make those busted chunk plays like he's been able to do, obviously. On the defense side of the ball, like, it's pretty easy key. Is Johnny Garrett going to be able to not control, but just handle Dylan Stewart for a game? Or is it just going to be he's going to get on a roll and just absolutely dominate the left side of that line? Because you're going to be in a bad spot. You're going to be able to set up a lot of stuff, either in the run or throw game. And then lastly, can you just execute in 2 minutes? Can you execute on the time management? It's been so big for Virginia Tech in those just situationals. 2 minutes before the half, 2 minutes right at the end of the game. If you're even still in the game at that point, can you just operate and not have the boneheaded false start if you're on a game-winning drive? Can you just stay in rhythm in those big situations? I think those are probably the biggest 3: containing Sellers, how the offensive line stands up against that front, and then just situational football.
Yeah, and Kolby, this kind of said that kind of exactly segues into what I wanted to ask you, and we mentioned on the beginning of the show. So bear with me. I'm going to repeat something for those of you that already heard it. But do you see any blowout potential either way in this game? And the thing that I said earlier was, if South Carolina is in a game like they were against Illinois in the bowl game, where it can go either way, there's some crucial moments at the end of the game, true coin flip, less than 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. But if this game is close like that, I think it favors Virginia Tech, because everything that I've found out about your field goal kicker is y'all will trot him out there from 60.
Yeah. I know it's rapid fire, but yeah, John Love, they feel super comfortable. Obviously, kicking a dome, they feel extremely comfortable about this guy. They think he's going to be an NFL guy. Obviously, I had a really, really long one in the bowl game. That was in open air Charlotte. It was super cold that night, drilled it. Big one against Miami, I think from 54 or 56. He's had a really great fall camp as well. So someone they feel super comfortable about in those late game situations. It would be pretty classic if this came down to some true Beamer Bowl special teams at the end. But going back to blowout potential, yeah, I think it could go blowout. Probably only one way. Like, I think if South Carolina, if Sellers just doesn't have a hard time with Sufkis's defense at all, and they seem out of sync in rhythm. I think they could run up the score, and I think the biggest thing is if Virginia Tech can't get going on offense because of that front, and that offensive line gets a little banged up, and they just can't get any push against that front. I think then you could see the offense get really stagnant and not be able to score, and South Carolina just kind of control their will. So I think that's where I could see the blowout. I don't really see a path where Virginia Tech goes out, hangs 28, and stops Sellers completely. So,
kind of outside of Kyron Jones, who are 3 guys, either offense, defense, that you're going to be really having your eye on for Virginia Tech?
I think someone that a lot of people, they're going to learn his name. Arguably, I think probably the best player on this defense is Kamari Copeland, defensive tackle, JUCO product last year. Didn't see much of him. Was kind of that backup rotation, tore his tricep, but an absolute workhorse, freak show in the weight room. Squatting like 655 pounds for 10 reps. This guy is an absolute beast. And not only does he get insane push and drive and motor off the ball, like he chases down a play from the backside and will make it 30 yards down the field. Like just relentless strain and grit and just getting after the ball. I think he's gonna have a really big season. And with the questions to the Gamecocks offensive line, I think they would say the interior of that line is kind of young, if I'm reading the tea leaves right. Yeah. And I think that's someone where he could have a good game. Outside of Kyron Jones, I think Marcellus Hawkins at the running back position. I think if they can get that line with a little bit of push, I think he gets in space. He can get on a roll. And then one more guy is – that's a good question. I'll go with Quentin Reddish. Like I said, if Lenoris gets into that pattern where you've seen, make a bad decision, I think that's someone who could take advantage because he's had a really nice fall camp. So those 3 guys.
Yeah, I think one of the bigger concerns for the Gamecocks when it comes to Lenoris and the turnovers, hopefully, for Gamecock fans, he's cured the interceptions, but just a slight carelessness as a ball carrier has doomed South Carolina, whether he's been past the line of scrimmage or behind it. So any kind of pass rush that Virginia Tech gets, it's going to be something that Gamecocks will have to adjust to. I guess, before we get you out of here, do you got a prediction for the game? Good, bad, or indifferent? And if it's not favoring Virginia Tech, you don't have to do it if it's going to get you killed on your message board.
No, it's not going to get me killed. I mean, they understand. I feel like I've gone from being a homer to a hater and everywhere from in back into between. So I said it earlier. We ran a show over earlier. I don't know when we'll drop it. Kind of spur of the moment. I haven't thought too much about it. Shout out Matei. I got to send you my prediction. But I think I said 30-21 South Carolina. I think it's always going to be kind of a touchdown, 8-point, 10-point away. And Virginia Tech's going to be like the final score is going to only show 9 points, but it's going to be a little bit further away than that, where it's always kind of controlled. Now, obviously, you got to handle your business down the stretch in a game like that. But I think it's going to be a good test, and I think they're going to keep it semi-competitive. But I just the talent advantage and just the personnel, I think South Carolina takes this one.
Well, Kolby, Gamecock fans would be really happy if you can get word to the Virginia Tech staff that the first time the Gamecocks receive a kickoff in the game, if the Gamecocks score a touchdown, there's a local Gamecock store that's going to refund everybody's purchases for the past 2 weeks. So
wow.
You can make that happen. Or if you see Gamecock fans cheering a little too loud for something before the kickoff, that's what
the opening kickoff.
Yeah. It's either one. It's the Gamecocks get it start the game or to start
or at the half. I got you.
So
wow. Okay, the game within the game. I'm tuned in. I might have to get down there.
Well, what else? Any other parting shots before we get you out of here? What else on your mind, Kolby?
Really, I think just that offensive line. Like Caleb Woodson's obviously dominated the headlines and rightfully so for the situation. But I mean, like I said, it's going to be the coordinated media presence saying we still haven't made a decision. He's probably going to roll out there on Sunday. So like, I don't think that should be a worry. And he's a stalwart on that defense. Like he is sort of the centerpiece, but I think the biggest thing is really that offensive line. And like, it's so basic to say every game is sort of decided in the trenches, but specifically, obviously Gamecocks fans know what they have on the defensive front, and Virginia Tech, I mean, didn't really exactly exude confidence talking to the offensive line coach just half hour ago. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the team feels extremely confident, obviously, as you would want your team to feel. So like, I know people said, did the resolve or the media attention and the whole Woodson that bring down team morale? No, I think everyone, the vibes are still high. If you can't get up for a big nationally televised Sunday game you shouldn't be playing. So the locker room's bought in. I think they're excited to go just run and strike and hit another team. So it should be really exciting.
Well, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I was going to say before you get out of here, tell obviously you and Evan and everybody over there at BT Scoop do a great job. Just tell everybody that's listening tonight where they can find you on Twitter and X and all that.
Yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you guys having me on. You can go check out vtscoop.com for all the tidbits leading up to the game from our side. You can follow me on X at Kolby_Crawford. I might go jump on and do another live video here right after this if you guys want to go check that out. But yeah, I mean, I touched on the things I touched on. But yeah, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, Kolby, you're the best. Thank you again for doing this, and we hope that you have. Are you going to the game?
Yes, sir. I'll be down there.
All right. Well, we'll get some numbers exchanged and we'll catch up while I'm down
Right
there.
on. Sounds good.
All right. See you, Kolby.
Right on. See you.
So, Alex, that was pretty interesting. I think that he gave us a pretty good rundown of Virginia Tech. Much more than we've gotten in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on all with the offense, defense. Got a really in-depth look there. So that was awesome. Yeah,
and I think that good on him. It's not easy to even when I predict the Gamecocks to lose, which I do occasionally. It's not fun to hear the pushback there, but good on Kolby for doing it. We really appreciate it. But Alex, it is now time for my favorite segment of the show. We're going to talk about our best bets for the weekend. Football has started. I mentioned earlier, Advent is kind of week 0. If you're a Christian, you have Advent and then you have Christmas Day a couple weeks later. And Christmas Day is coming this weekend. So some of the games you have on the docket, Texas at Ohio State, LSU at that team up in the northern part of the state, Notre Dame at Miami, Alabama at Florida State, Nebraska versus Cincinnati, Syracuse versus Tennessee, Georgia Tech at Colorado, Boise State at South Florida, Auburn at Baylor, I think Friday night. I can't remember a weekend this jam-packed, and it's really nice for the Gamecocks to play on Sunday.
I was just going to point that out. Like, that Saturday is going to be pretty incredible. I mean, you got games in every window, starting with that Texas-Ohio State game at noon. I mean, just not having to – and from my perspective, having to get to the press box and worrying about everything. From South Carolina's perspective, I get to sit down and watch TV all day because it's – I'm trying to think back to some prior week ones, but this feels like it's one of the best week ones that I can remember in a long time. And, I mean, shoot, it starts tomorrow night. I mean, I think ECU, NC State's kind of intriguing game tomorrow night. You get to see an SEC team on the field tomorrow, Missouri playing Central Arkansas. I have more on that in a minute in my best bets. But, yeah, I mean, it's like, 4 straight days of football, including Sunday and then Monday, TCU in North Carolina as well. So glad it's here.
Yeah, it's a special time. It's really impacting my fantasy football league's draft as well, because we normally draft on Saturdays, but or Fridays or Sundays, whatever. But with a packed Sunday and a packed Saturday, it's going to be difficult. So Alex, let's move on to our best bets. Did you have a chance to look at anything? We always pick 5 games, and we either pick the over under or the spread. We can both pick the same game, but I don't know Alex's picks. He doesn't know mine because I reminded him at 7:15 we need to do picks.
Thanks for that.
Go ahead, Alex. If you want to go first, I'll let losers go first.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. First off, I'm going with one of the first games on Friday, or one of the first games of the weekend, going with Baylor is going to win outright against Auburn.
What's the point spread on that one?
I think it's 2.5, 3, something like that.
Who's favored?
Auburn.
Okay, so Baylor money line. I like that bet, Alex. I really like always love your bets. But that's a good one. So we got Baylor money line, and so that'll be Friday night. So kicking the weekend off strong. I'm gonna go back to one of my tried and trues from last season, especially early in the season. Georgia State travels to Ole Miss, and that over-under is 60.5 points. And Ole Miss is a 35.5 point favorite. Some people, Alex, will be scared of that hook on the 35.5. I am not one of those people, because what does Lane Kiffin do week 1 and week 2 and week 3? He will not punt. He will run everything. So give me Ole Miss minus 35.5. In week 1.
I thought about that one. I looked at it and I was like, with a new quarterback, but then I can see the flip side of that where they're just going to let Austin Simmons go, especially being new and kind of get into that offense. So I like that one. I can definitely see it. Sticking with Friday night's games, I'm going Georgia Tech covers the 4.5-point spread against Colorado.
All right. Well, we know that Colorado has a quarterback that got named today, and you're not believing what Deion's brewing up there in Colorado. He loses his son, loses the Heisman Trophy winner, and now he's just going to lose to Georgia Tech, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Colorado. He just lost so much, and were they able to replace all of it? And I like Brent Key. I like Haynes Keene at Georgia Tech. I think he's a really good quarterback. So I've got them covering that. I think now not by a lot, but I think it's going to be a touchdown game.
Yeah, I'm actually with you there. I agree with you. That's not one of mine, though. I do like Georgia Tech plus 4.5, and that's the hook I will take. Give me that all day. Give me money line even. The next one is going to be Monday night, I believe. This is Notre Dame versus Miami. The over-under on this game is 49.5 points, and Notre Dame is only a 2.5-point favorite. That 2.5-point favorite seems really fishy to me, but I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking it. I am going to go under 49.5 points in that game. So give me Miami Notre Dame under 49.5. And you know what? I am taking the bait. The bait is there, and I'm taking it. I just changed on the flop here. Give me Notre Dame minus 2.5.
Well, I was going to say I like the under pick just because I think Miami on paper right now has got a chance to have a decent defense, and Notre Dame always has a good defense. So I would have liked the under pick, but also like that pick as well. Well,
Queen of the Cock says, give me Miami for the upset, screenshot it. So all you folks, Queen, Michael, Craig, Brian, golly, all of you folks, screenshot that so we can talk about it next week. But so I'm taking both of those, Alex. I'm taking Notre Dame minus 2.5 and under 49.5 in that one. I guess you can do 2 because I just did 2.
Okay. Well, I'll stick with tomorrow's games. I went back and forth on this one too, but NC State's a 14-point favorite against East Carolina at home in Raleigh. I like NC State to win, but East Carolina is going to cover the 14.
All right, ECU plus 14.
And then my second one, I'll save that one. Alabama is 13.5-point favorite over FSU. I've got them winning back game by 3 touchdowns.
Okay, well. I'm also, so you got Bama minus the 13.5. I love Bama. I love me some Bama this year. I hope for my sake the Gamecocks beat Alabama after saying that. But in this game, I'm also taking the under 50.5. I don't think Florida State's going to move the ball very well. I think Alabama's going to play solid football. I see this like 31-10.
That's the matchup I'm watching in that one is what Alabama's defense is going to do against, or I guess maybe the flip side is what's Florida State's offense with Thomas Castellanos at offense or quarterback. What is that offense going to do against Alabama's defense? That's really the key matchup in that one.
Yep, I can see that. So is that 4-4 now? What do you have?
Yeah, one more each.
All right, let's go. You first, Alex.
All right, so I teased this one earlier, but Missouri is a 36.5-point spread. And I did not write down the team. I'm pretty sure it's Central Arkansas. Missouri's going to win and win comfortably, but with the way they're going to be playing 2 quarterbacks and Bo Perbula and Sam Horn, they will not cover that 36.5.
Okay, so Mizzou, I don't know, the opponent does not cover.
Let me make sure that is Central Arkansas. I should have written that down.
It does not cover 36.5?
Yes. Yeah, it is Central Arkansas. I mean, they'll still win comfortably, but it's a big line for having to play 2 quarterbacks.
You're biting that hook when Missouri's going to run the ball the entire game. All right, so my last one is a team that has actually been mentioned on the show tonight. Who do you think it is, Alex? It's not South Carolina, Virginia Tech. What's another team that's been mentioned tonight? You mentioned them.
Early in the show? Before Kolby?
Earlier in the show. Who did the North Steelers play his first game of the last season?
Say that again.
Who is Lenore Sellers' first start against?
Oh, Old Dominion.
Yes, Old Dominion travels to Indiana. Indiana is a 23.5 point favorite with an over-under set at 54.5. Give me Old Dominion plus 23.5.
I like it. So that was another one I looked at, and I was like, I don't know enough about Old Dominion. And thank you for telling us at 7:30 we were doing best bets tonight, so I didn't have enough time to go and look up Old Dominion to see what all they had. So I would have picked that one, but I wasn't sure what Old Dominion had. But I can see it. That Indiana's definitely going to be a team that everybody's watching now after last year.
Yeah, I don't even know who Old Dominion has either. But I just know that I don't like Indiana. I don't think that they're very good. They have to replace their quarterback, don't they?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Is that game on Saturday?
I believe it is on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday at 2:30. Okay, yeah, I'll be watching that.
I got all this written down. I'm excited for it. And look, I might have something brewing as well with these best bet segments. So stay tuned to the show. Just a reminder, while Alex and I are gone until Monday, the Chief Sports Network is not gone until Monday. You still have a couple daily shows left, Thursday and Friday. There's going to be a tailgate show. There's going to be the South Carolina high school football show. There's, oh my gosh, SEC Sunday night. There's so many shows on this network. So make sure you check it all out. I will be on Inside the Gamecocks on Friday. Looking forward to that. Hoping some work stuff gets cleared up, but as long as it gets cleared up, I will be there. And then, Alex, before we know it, you and I will both be in Atlanta.
Yeah, I keep saying it's hard to believe, but I'm glad it's here. It's time to get into this week by week thing, and excited to see what the team looks like.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to everybody who was out on the show with us tonight. A special thanks to Kolby. A special thanks to all of you who've been in the chat box, who support this show, who watch this show. When you spend your time with us, you give us the most valuable thing you have, which is your time. So thank you so much. Alex, his X handle's there. My email is there. If y'all need anything at all, just holler at us. We're here. We're here to help y'all, and we appreciate y'all being a part of this show. Alex and I will be back Monday evening. Looking at Monday evening at 8:00 for Rooster Rant. So we'll break down everything that happened in South Carolina and Virginia Tech. Maybe talk a little bit around the country if there were any surprises, and then we will lead you right in. Well, actually, not this Monday, but starting next Sunday, we'll lead you right into SEC Sunday night. So we got your 8 to 10 block covered on Sunday nights after NFL's done. You put us on, and you put the game on in the background. Can't wait. And again, Kolby's a part of Virginia Tech VT Scoop. It's 24/7 website. So is the Big Spur. You join the Big Spur, you can go read what Kolby has to say over there. So we appreciate everybody. Alex and I are always around. And with that being said, we're going to head to Atlanta. See you soon, Alex.
See ya.